September the 12th to stop housing migrants following weeks of disruption. Well, joining me now live on LBC News is James Wild, the Shadow Treasury Minister and Conservative MP for North West Norfolk. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So we're now in a situation, aren't we, where there's more than 200 other hotels housing migrants. Do you think other councils may now follow suit in pushing for these people seeking asylum to go elsewhere?
Well, I welcome this decision and the action that was taken by a Conservative council on behalf of its local residents and the concerns that they had about the people being housed there. We've already seen other authorities have said they'll look at this ruling. Clearly, every case is going to depend on the individual circumstances of it. But the basic problem here is that the government scrapped the deterrent policy that we had ready to go. And as a result, the numbers have come and increased, and there's been 50,000 arrivals in the last year. And that's why, rather than closing asylum hotels as they pledged to do, we're seeing the numbers of people in these hotels actually increasing. And that's fueling a lot of concern and unease in communities like Epping and elsewhere. And the government really needs to be talking to local authorities, talking to MPs, people who understand their communities, rather than just imposing these hotels and taking hotels out of use in the wrong place.
Well, in the last 20 minutes or so, I've been speaking to Liberal Democrat MP Paul Kohler. He's just pointed some of the blame for all of this at your party. Let's just have a listen to what he said.
There's clearly an issue with asylum hotels, and we shouldn't have lots of asylum seekers put in hotels. It's quite wrong. This is a legacy of the Tories not dealing with the applications, not dealing with undocumented entry, and we need to address it. Labour said they would address it. They've not done so. We need to stop processing applications quickly.
So he says this is a legacy of the Tories. What do you say to that?
Well, this hotel was actually ordered to be closed by the previous Conservative Home Secretary. It's the Labour Home Secretary who ordered it to be reopened. And she did that because the numbers keep coming. We've had 25,000 people arriving illegally so far this year. You go to Calais, you see people just queuing up. There's no deterrent effect. They're not concerned about making that dangerous journey. They're paying thousands of pounds because they're confident they won't be removed. So until you've got a clear position that if you arrive here illegally, you'll be detained and then removed either to your home country or to a safe third country, people will keep coming. So processing claims more quickly is not going to solve the problem. In fact, it could make the problem worse. And I don't think the Liberal Democrats supported the deterrent policy. So like the Labour Party, they're in a position where the numbers are going to keep increasing. And the pledge to smash the gangs that we heard repeatedly rings very hollow to people in Epping and other communities across the country.
What would the Conservatives now do about this situation?
Well, we've been clear that we would reinstate a deterrent policy that we had so that you would be detained and removed and you would not be able to stay in the UK if you came in here illegally. And we'd take action to make sure that human rights legislation did not prevent us from doing so. That's the tough action that we need. That's the action that's worked in Australia. If you look at what President Trump's been doing in America, the number of illegal migrants coming into his country is now basically zero because he's had a no-nonsense approach to border security. And unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing from this government. And until they act, then the pressure to continue using hotels or flats or private rental properties is only going to increase. And that just brings more pressure onto communities in this country and feeds an unease and a lack of feeling safe, which is part of the issue that people in parents and families in Epping were protesting about and bringing to light. And that's what the court has ruled on a temporary basis, that this hotel needs to close.
Let's turn to inflation. As you'll be very aware, we've had figures out this morning. The CPI rate of inflation's increased to 3.8% in July. What is your take on these latest figures where we're sitting with the economy and a further squeeze, it feels, on everyday finances?
Yeah, well, the lights are flashing red. They have been for some time on the economy, and this is further pain for hardworking families. And unfortunately, it's due in large part to the decisions made in the autumn budget last year, where taxes on employing people were significantly increased. And we warned at the time, the hospitality sector warned at the time, that the only way that companies can absorb this is passing it on through higher prices, as we're seeing. Inflation now 3.8%, nearly double the rate that the government inherited a year ago. So we're seeing higher prices, but we're also seeing higher unemployment. Unemployment's risen in each of the last 10 months. And if you tax jobs, then that's the impact that you're going to have. And that mismanagement, unfortunately, is getting us into a bit of a loop where it's now predicted by independent forecasters the Chancellor is going to be looking to increase taxes even further. There's talk of a family homes tax in the press today. So whether it's your home, your job, your pension, your savings, these are all on the table because Rachel Reeves has got to close the gap that she's created by suppressing growth in the economy. Instead, they should be taking action to tackle spending, not massively increasing it as they are proposing to do. Cutting things like welfare, which they backed away from only a few weeks ago. Unless they get a grip of the finances, then unfortunately we're going to see the Bank of England are predicting inflation will get to 4% in September, and we'll have to see what happens beyond that. But that's making it more expensive for the weekly shop. Food inflation is above the 3.8% figure. So that's really hitting families. And the Chancellor really needs to be listening and looking across the economy. We've seen energy prices going up. We've seen water bills, council tax. All of the costs that families are facing are going up. And at the same time, the Chancellor's making it harder for businesses to employ people and to pay them well.
I mean, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will argue, no doubt, today, and she has indeed said that they are pushing through their plan for change, wanting to go further and faster, putting more money in people's pockets, I think, referring to raising the minimum wage, extending things like the £3 bus fare cap, also expanding free school meals for over 500,000 more children, free breakfast clubs, all that kind of stuff has gone into the mix. I'm sure she'd argue to your points you've made. It was interesting you brought up this, what we've been hearing about, isn't it, this possibly a new property tax. And I know this is one that has got people talking a lot as well. What is your take on all this? Is it not fairer, perhaps, for people who have made a lot of money on their homes to pay a tax rather than those who are trying to get a foot in on the property ladder?
Well, we've been calling on the government to rule out imposing a family home tax. This would be the first time that someone's family home would be subject to capital gains tax. And for the average family, that could mean, on an average home, that could mean £15,000 when they look to sell their house. That's not fair. And that's not a decision the government should be taking. They're being forced to look at these decisions because of the mismanagement that they've had. I think most people would expect that if you work hard, save, get on the housing ladder, that you won't then be hit as a result for your hard work. And otherwise, that's just going to be a disincentive to people to aspire to home ownership and to do more to bring housing. And it may well lead to the housing market being more gummed up as a result. So I don't think this is a good tax to be looking at. But unfortunately, there's a long list of things that the Chancellor is looking at, including not lifting the freeze on the personal income tax threshold, which was at the centre of her budget last year. She said it was unfair to hardworking people to continue that freeze, but now she won't say that she's absolutely committed to lifting it. So that would hit working people even further. And to go to one of your points, the £3 bus fare cap used to be £2. So Rachel Reeves increased it significantly. So I don't think people feel like they've got more money in their pocket, and that's not what the stats are showing. But talking to my constituents, certainly that isn't the sense that I'm getting.
I think when it comes to the ideas of whether it's stamp duty being scrapped or this so-called tax on people who already own properties, I think no final decisions have been made on that yet, have we? So we will watch that. But thank you so much for now, James Wild, Shadow Treasury Minister, Conservative MP for North West Norfolk. Thank you for discussing all those issues we're looking at today here on LBC News.